Got a great job. Money in the bank. Last month, someone asked if I read the Bible. The Bible? I'm successful, I'm happy. What do I need the Bible for? I can get more from the Wall Street Journal. But that made me curious. So I decided to take a second look.
I'm on my feet all day. When I go home, I just want to turn on the TV and relax. But read the Bible? All those these and thous and begats? Who wants to struggle with that after waiting on customers all day? But then a friend showed me this version written in modern English, and I was surprised.
This guy I play hoops with said I should start reading it, the Bible. Man, I said, I don't need no Bible. I mean, it just ain't cool. So he goes, I read it all the time. And he beat me by 20 points. So he gives me his Bible, I read it. It ain't hoops, but it ain't bad.
What's your excuse? Before you make an excuse to avoid reading the Bible, stop, take a second look. Pick up the Bible for 5 minutes, and you may pick it up for a lifetime.
And a woman's work is never done, thanks to daytime television. We are reporting to you on 7 crooks. John Porzio, a landlord, a law-breaking landlord, his liar for hire, Friedrich Lehrman, and his liar for hire, Mark A. Guterman. We are reporting about 2 corrupt judges, Joanne Freya and Rosanna Washington of the City Court of the City of White Plains. Now, what has happened on the baseless lawsuit that John Porzio brought? He brought this lawsuit out of a frenzy and a fit of retaliation and vindication. He had violated our warranty of habitability. That is our right to live peacefully and safely and cleanly. We reported him to the authorities, the White Plains Building Department, the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal, and to the Westchester County District Attorney and to the White Plains Police, because John Porzio, being the gutter snipe that he is, spit in my face. And so he brought this baseless lawsuit to satisfy his anger and his vitriolic vengeance. That ran into the hands of 2 corrupt judges, Joanne Freya and Rosanna Washington. Joanne Freya was sued for sewer service and for violating our right to in personam jurisdiction and a few other constitutional rights. And then Rosanna Washington was crooked throughout the whole trial, was as despotic and autocratic as anybody could ever be in all of history. And she wrote a decision. She called it a decision after trial. It was a decision during trial. She wrote the decision during the trial, before all of the evidence was presented, and she absolutely refused to let us present any evidence. And that's why I'm playing you 8 hours of videotape evidence that she robbed us of presenting, and 5 hours of audio tape evidence. So she wrote this decision during trial, but you want to know something? She wasn't smart enough to make it an order. Okay, a decision doesn't stand, it has to be an order or a judgment. And then Porzio, Lehrman, and Guterman were dumb enough not to have the decision entered as an order. And here is a law. This is a uniform law, trial courts. And look what it says, folks. Uniform Rule 202.48A and C. Uniform Rule 202.48A requires that the order be settled or submitted for signature within 60 days after the signing and filing of the decision. Within 60 days. And Rosanna signed this on February the 24th, okay? March the 24th, April the 24th, May the 24th, that was yesterday, that's 90 days. Failure to submit on time shall be deemed an abandonment. of the motion or action. So the whole action is abandoned. They've neglected to enter it as an order. Indeed, it may be the practice in a given court to mark such decisions abandoned after the 60 days without even waiting for a motion by the opposing party. Well, it's abandoned. That's all there is to it. No motion is necessary, no action is as necessary. The thing is abandoned. That is the law. Whoopee! So it's as if Porzio never brought his baseless action, and it's as if his liar for hire, whom he is stiff for $17,000 attorney fees, never lied as they did. I think they've told something like 400 or 500 lies, all of them, all of these people together. Porzio the landlord, his liar for hire, Lehrman, his liar for hire, Gudeman, the corrupt judges, Joanne Freer and Rosanna Washington. I have not had time as yet to picket 77 South Lexington, down with Joanne Freer, down with Rosanna Washington, crooked lawyers and corrupt judges. I haven't had time to do that, but I almost had time to do it last Friday. So it's getting closer. My posters are all made, and I have my permit for 2 months. Oh, that in itself, is unconstitutional. We'll have to go after White Plains for that. They make you get, they call it, well, it isn't a permit, they say. It's just an information. Well, they can't even do that because you have a First Amendment right to picket, to go up and down the sidewalk. Anyway, I have it for 2 months, for 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And also in front of 199 Main Street, which is where the liar for hire is, Lehrman and Gudeman, and also in front of John Porzio's office, which is at 2 Old Mamaroneck Road. He has a condominium there, and he uses it for an office. So I have those 3 places to picket. I haven't had time to find out from the White Plains law office how you go about having Rosanna Washington recalled. Judges in White Plains are not elected by the people as they should be. They are appointed by the Common Council, and the Common Council does a wretched job appointing judges. Okay, so that's the baseless lawsuit. And the Freer lawsuit for sewer service went to Grisey, a United States District Judge who doesn't like it when you sue judges. And so instead of ruling fairly and impartially, and as an American should, Grisey ruled on personal bias, and that went to the U.S. Court of Appeals. They ruled on personal bias, then it went up to the United States Supreme Court. They did a very strange thing, and that'll take another whole program to tell you about that, what I'm going to do about the United States Supreme Court doing what they did on Glendora versus Porzio, Freer, Washington, Lehrman, Gudeman. And then we had the lawsuit, the second lawsuit was Rosanna Washington and Joanne Freer stole our right to trial by jury, both as a state law under the Real Property Actions and Proceedings Law, Section 745, and of course under the 7th Amendment to the Constitution Bill of Rights. So they stole that, and I sued them. And that was, again, ran into self-serving judges, and all of these dirty judges, they stick together. And that is in the United States Court of Appeals. I am waiting for them to grant my motion for informa pauperis. I cannot afford to pay the court fees because I have spent all of my money on crooked lawyers and corrupt judges in courts. And so that's where that one stands. Then the third one, which cause of action, was Rosanna Washington violating our 14th Amendment right to equal protection of the law. And that ran into the corrupt hands of Robert S. Sweet, and he treated it just the way Grisey did, in self-interest and in corruption. And in traitorship to the United States, and dismissed the case, not on its merits, because it has plenty of merits, but dismissed it autocratically, and at the same time, Porzio, Guterman, and Lehrman, parasites that they are, never appeared and let the state of New York pay for their getting it dismissed. And of course, Freya and the court stenographer, Kathleen Brophy, and Rosanna Washington, should never have made the state pay for their defense. They should have privately financed it. They are parasites too. Okay, so Sweet dismissed that one. And so what's happened to Robert A. Sweet? We have done 2 full half-hour TV reports on him. They are not seen here in White Plains. They are seen on the Continental System, Terrytown north to Peekskill and across the river. And they're also seen in Cablevision, Rockland County, and down into northern New Jersey. They are not seen here. So what did we do about Robert A. Sweet? We sued him. Not in the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, hopelessly corrupt. We sued Robert A. Sweet along with other corrupt judges in the Southern District and the Second Circuit. We sued them in the United States District Court, District of Columbia, because after all, they are federal officers. After all, they are appointed by the President of the United States. After all, they are ratified by the Senate of the United States. So the District of Columbia District Court has jurisdiction over them. There's another one going on. The appeal in the appellate term of the Supreme Court of the State of New York of the Rosanna Washington phonetics. That is in that appellate term. And the appellate term returned, well, Guterman and Lehrman are so crooked, and they're always late. And the return date on my motion to argue the appeal as a matter of law, because Freya and Rosanna Washington broke so many laws. They even broke more laws than the landlord and the crooked lawyers. They broke so many laws that the case could be easily argued on the laws that they broke. Even one alone would throw out the case. So I made a motion to the appellate term to argue my case as a matter of law, not as a matter of fact. And the return date of that motion was April 30th, and that screwball Guterman didn't get in a reply until May 7th. And so immediately I wrote a reply affidavit in opposition to his opposition. And the appellate term sent back my reply affidavit, which means, of course, I hope that they sent back Guterman's opposition because it was untimely. That's where that one stands. Is that all of them? Let's count them up. There was a baseless action of Porzio. I had 2 actions against Porzio in the DHCR. No, that is not all of them. And then there's the one with Freya and Grisey, and the one with Rosanna Washington that's in the U.S. Court of Appeals, and the one with Sweet, which is now in the United States District Court, District of Columbia, and there's the one in the appellate term. No, there's 2 more. Glendora versus Ponio. Ponio is the district rent administrator. He works for the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal. Just a minute. Katie wants to get down. There's all kinds of wires here. Good girl, Katie. You can always find the right way out. Right, Katie? Ponio. And Ponio, Porzio, by the law, has to renew the lease. He didn't do that. He broke another law. And so I brought it to the DHCR. But Mr. Ponio thinks that the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal is there to administer the emergency tenant protection law. He thinks that's there to protect landlords instead of protecting tenants. That's what Ponio thinks. So he lied, saying that the matter of lease renewal was before the White Plains City Court. It was not. It was never before the White Plains City Court. And so he ruled against lease renewal. And he never sent me a copy of the order. And he made his decision on November 21st, and by January 20th or so, as slow as the DHCR is, they take forever. They don't do their work. I began to think that I should have heard from that complaint, and so I inquired, and I was told that that my application was denied back in November, and I had never been notified. That's another crooked thing that Ponio did. So I asked him to open it up again, and he refused to open it up again. So I sued Ponio, and I sued his boss, Lynch, the acting director of the Division of Housing and Community Renewal, and I sued Lynch's boss, Pataki, because they were all fully informed of what Ponio had done wrong, and they did nothing about it. And they have a supervisory responsibility to you, not to let those things happen. So that's a big fight, and a very important fight. And of course, along with it, I sued Porzio, Lehrman, and Guterman, because they're the ones who put Ponio up to this. There was collusion, obvious collusion. So it's a very important fight that the Emergency Tenant Protection Act is to protect tenants, not landlords. And this is being fought by one of the crookedest people in the world, Richard Lombardo, an assistant attorney general, state of New York. Liars in the courtroom. Terrible people. They're as bad as U.S. attorneys. Okay, now there's another one. Porzio, in compliance with his way of life, which is to lie, steal, and cheat. He lied under oath, folks, 13 times. His way of life is to lie, steal, and cheat, so he returned only half of our security deposit, $450, or thereabouts. He stole the rest of it. So there's an action in the Supreme Court, State of New York, County of Westchester, against Porzio, Guterman, and Lehrman for that, and also that Porzio be enjoined from ever collecting security deposits from anybody because he abuses them. He abuses the security deposits, and he abuses the tenants. So that is before Judge Louis A. Barone, Justice of the Supreme Court, and Porzio, Lehrman, and Guterman defaulted on that, just as they defaulted on in the Sweet Court, just as they defaulted in the Cowie Court. Liars that they are. So I think that summarizes it now. Now what I'm doing is showing you the footage that Rosanna Washington crookedly, evilly, undemocratically, autocratically robbed us of presenting. So I show you that. And there are 4 videotapes, VHS 2 hours. So it's 8 hours, and you've seen about an hour and a half of it. So we're going to show you some more today. And next week we try to show you some more until you've seen it all. This is the evidence that the White Plains City Court, under the evil and incompetent and mean-spirited direction of one part-time judge, Rosanna Washington, robbed us of presenting. Went to court on Friday, April the 21st. Is that right? No, April the 18th. Friday, April the 18th, of the City Court of the City of White Plains, before Judge Holden, John F. Holden, Jr. And Frank DiNicola, who is a a very interesting person, a very likable person, and a person I respect. I met him from going to the court so much and monitoring the judges and all those things. He does work for lawyers. He does service. He does digging up witnesses. He does a whole lot of work for lawyers, billing them, the people, and he does a lot of good things, and he has his own business. And so he was good enough to consent to be my witness. Folks, don't ever go to court without a witness. So he was, particularly in this case, where they have a court stenographer. In no way in the world can I afford a court stenographer's record. This whole system has to be done away with, court stenographers. And where I asked to audio tape it, and it was not granted. So you got to have a witness in court. And so we were called at 9 o'clock, and Frank D. Nicola, when he found out who Porzio's lawyer is, Mr. Lehrman, and he's an acidic, and Mr. D. Nicola handed Mr. Lehrman the notice of motion. And Judge Holden said, "Counsel, could we please have your attention?" And Mr. Lehrman says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've just been handed a notice of motion." So right away, Judge Holden says, "Your adjournment date?" And Glendora said, "I am Glendora, I'm the respondent in this action, and I am appearing pro se, and I wish to make a motion to dismiss this action in its entirety." And so Mr. Lehrman protested the adjournment. He says, "No," he says, "let me see what her argument is." And he went over to the jury box, and he sat down and he read it. And I watched him quite intently all the time, enjoying my conversation with Frank D. Nicola. And Mr. Lehrman said to Judge Holden, "Can I have a second call?" And Judge Holden says, "It'll be a long second call." He says, "Because I have a lot of things to do." There were a lot of things in the people in the courtroom. And so about 9:30 we were called again. When I said that the court did not have in personam jurisdiction over me, Judge Holden says, "Well, you're here." And I says, "I'm here only to stop a default judgment. But I have not been served." And so I think my point is sound and safe there. And then when we came back, Mr. Lehrman apparently felt the punch of the motion to dismiss in all of its 40 counts, and knew that he had to answer it. And so he went into dates that I couldn't make, like April 28th, Monday, which is a hearing before the United States Magistrate Judge Joan Azrak in the Eastern District of New York in Brooklyn. And so just all these dates and everything. So finally he went backwards up to the 25th, and I said, "But I want an opportunity for a reply, affirmation to his opposition." And so it was settled that on April the 25th, Glendora would have that opposition from Lehrman in her hands, and that she would answer it, and that we would come to court on May the 2nd. At first I suggested May the 1st, and then I held myself because that's my birthday, and that's no place to be on your birthday. So May the 2nd, Judge Holden says May the 2nd. So that motion to dismiss, folks, stopped everything. It just stopped everything. And so May the 2nd, we go to court, and we fight it out. But it's nothing but lies in the petition. It's nothing but lies in the notice of termination. It's retaliation, which is against the law. A landlord cannot retaliate against a tenant. It's harassment to move. That's against the law, the real property law. And let me tell you the other law, because I'm sure that many of you have been bruised and battered and bullied by the same type of landlord. Let me tell you the other law that you got to know. That's the real property actions and proceedings law. Both of these laws, of course, are New York statutes. And this is how reading the New York statutes has really helped me. And you know something, folks? I only have 2 shelves left. I've read something like 7 shelves of the New York statutes. And of course, I'm just up to the real property law and up to the real property actions and proceedings law, section 700. So you have to take the offensive even though you're on the defensive, and you have to put up a good offense and you have to put up a good defense, and that's a motion to dismiss. And done correctly, that's extremely powerful. All right, we will have to continue this. I believe this ends the White Plains edition for the week of April the 14th, 1997, Anno Domini. And now the rest of this is going to be on another cable TV company, and you may not be able to hear it or see it. That is too bad. Would you like to make a statement?
Yes, it's a beautiful job, and it got done because of you.
Oh, thank you, Franklin.
You're the one responsible.
You know something, folks? That's the way to get a landlord to fix something. Okay, the landlord tries to evict you with no probable cause, and then because you have made a complaint to the White Plains Building Department, and then the landlord, because of this action to try to evict you on phony grounds, has to go to court, and the White Plains Building Department gets out its complaint to the landlord just before the landlord has to go to court Friday, and whoop, this stuff gets done Thursday. I'm going to show the rest of it to you in the cellar, the rest of the improvements and the things that were missed. Fade out. Here we are.
great job. Money in the bank. Last month, someone asked if I read the Bible. The Bible? I'm successful, I'm happy. What do I need the Bible for? I can get more from the Wall Street Journal. But that made me curious. So I decided to take a second look.
I'm on my feet all day. When I go home, I just want to turn on the TV and relax. But read the Bible? All those these and thous and begats? Who wants to struggle with that after waiting on customers all day? But then a friend showed me this version written in modern English, and I was surprised.
This guy I play hoops with said I should start reading it, the Bible. Man, I said, I don't need no Bible. I mean, it just ain't cool. So he goes, I read it all the time. And he beat me by 20 points. So he gives me his Bible. I read it. It ain't hoops, but it ain't bad.
What's your excuse? Before you make an excuse to avoid reading the Bible, stop. Take a second look. Pick up the Bible for 5 minutes, and you may pick it up for a lifetime.
They said the airlines that he flew on, they couldn't afford in-flight movies. He says, but that was all right because every now and then your life flashed before your eyes. And if you look like your passport photo, folks, you are not well enough to travel. And John says what really bothers him about the airlines is that he cannot afford to fly to Paris, Rome, and Hong Kong. But his luggage has been to all three. I am reporting to you about my nominee for Crooked Judge of the Week. That would be Robert S. Sweet, United States Judge, District Court, Southern District of New York. I was reading to you about how judges will, dirty judge protection, how they will protect each other. We had a law passed by Congress giving us the right to file a grievance against a federal judge and giving us the right to have it treated correctly. Well, that doesn't happen, okay? We have a chief judge of the Second Circuit, Ralph K. Winter, and no matter who complains about a judge, the judge always wins and the complainant always loses. On Wednesday, May the 27th, I went to the, in fact, the book wasn't even on the counter. It's supposed to be on the counter in public view, and of course it's never labeled judicial misconduct complaints. Oh no. Ooh. And it wasn't even on the counter, out for the public to view, and I had to ask for it. So I opened it up for 1998. Guess what? Every misconduct complaint about a judge was dismissed. Now, one of the statutory grounds upon which a chief judge may dismiss a judicial misconduct complaint is if he finds it is directly related to the merits of a decision or procedural ruling. In other words, if the judge does a bad job on the merits of the case, and if he does a bad job on procedural rulings, well then he can get by with it. Although a complaint alleging bad faith, biased judicial conduct, legally insupportable and factually dishonest rulings should not be dismissed as merits related, it invariably is. These are the bad things that judges do and how they have hurt our country, our United States, our great country that so many millions of our youth gave their young lives for, their little young lives, 18, 19, 20 years old. And then they go out and make that sacrifice mean nothing. Adding insult to injury, chief judges sometimes tack onto their dismissal orders another statutory ground for dismissal, frivolous. If you sue another judge because he's bad, that's frivolous. In their view, a bias claim supported only by erroneous rulings and decisions, no matter how egregious, is frivolous. This was written by Elena Sassower, Center for Judicial Accountability. I would like to have you know what a crooked landlord and corrupt judges and crooked lawyers have cost Glendora. As to the week before Memorial Day, 1998, $3,001.27 in print, post, and travel, 134 and a quarter hours times $250 per hour is $327,812 and $50 legal labor. 4,478 pages, 96 mailings, 13 volumes, 45 if you count all the wall volumes, 1.5 file drawers, 20 TV reports, 735 lies these crooked lawyers, judges, and law-breaking landlord have told. And that's from December 18, 1996 to May 21st, 1998, 1 year, 6 months, and 3 days. A violation of Empire State rights and federal rights. Your TV report in detail about the malfeasance and nonfeasance of one United States District Judge, Robert S. Sweet. His comment on it, his memo endorsed comment on it, was to the extent that this document asks for relief, none is merited. That got into the file after the case was closed. Now, when I want to enter something after the case is closed, the clerks won't do it. But when a crooked judge wants to do it, the crooked clerks will do it. Notice of appeal and my informa pauperis and my reasons that I read to you on TV why the screwball order of Sweet should be appealed. I sent that all to the pro se clerk, the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, and I call up and nobody knows what's happened to it. No. So I have an appointment for Wednesday at 2 p.m. to call the appeals clerk and see if he can find what happened to it and get it on its way over to the U.S. Court of Appeals. All up to date on short and sweet. And we will move on to other reports. And we are trying to help people who have landlord-tenant problems. This is a memorandum by Glendora that the Porzio action has been abandoned. Writes Glendora, Porzio, Lehrman, Guterman failed to enter the order within 60 days after the signing and filing of the decision. See, dumb Rosanna Washington doesn't know enough to write a decision in order. She just writes a decision. And the decision was signed and filed on February 23rd, 1998, and it was never entered as an order. That's over 90 days ago, folks. Ergo, the action is abandoned. See Uniform Rule 202.48 AC, Uniform Rules of Trial Courts, State of New York. Rule 202.48A requires that the order be settled or submitted for signature within 60 days after the signing and filing of the decision. Failure to submit on time shall be deemed an abandonment of the motion or action. And so dumb Lehrman and dumb Guterman and dumb Porzio and dumb Rosanna Washington, the four colluders in robbing justice in the City Court of White Plains, I guess one of the worst courts we have, all of them failed, and they've lost the action, and so it's as if the action was never happened. It's a nullity. Porzio, Guterman, Lehrman had 60 days, February 23rd to April 23rd, 1998. Now it is past May 23rd. Over 90 days, they failed. The action is abandoned. Uniform Rules 206.9 says the same thing. Proposed orders must be submitted for signature unless otherwise directed within 60 days of filing of the decision, directing that the order be settled or submitted. Failure to submit on a timely basis shall be deemed an abandonment of the action. So that's a great victory. And it says so here, CPLR 2220, that if a party fails to file any papers required to be filed under the entry and filing of an order, the order may be vacated as irregular. Wherefore, the entire action is abandoned as if it had never been brought. Glendora has told you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help her God. She and Franklin are the only ones who have. And by the way, there is no such person as Franklin Buell. They're illiterate, they can't even spell. And here's the atrocious decision of the incompetent part-time White Plains City Judge, Rosanna Washington. Evict Rosanna. I haven't had time to picket Rosanna yet. Go up and down the street and say crooked lawyers and corrupt judges, evict Rosanna Washington, evict Joanne Freya. I still haven't had time to do that yet. And the city of White Plains is really in trouble because they make you fill out an information subpoena where you're going to picket, what time you're going to picket. And that's very serious because that is, the sidewalks are First Amendment territory. And they're really going to get themselves in trouble by requiring that subpoena. That permit. I want to draw your attention to tenants and neighbors. It's an organization that does so much for tenants with greedy landlords, and they fight them and they win a lot of things. And they just had a great yesterday. They just Saturday, May 30th, 1998. They had a get-together with speakers, and they honored some of the legislators at the meeting. I'll give you the names of the legislators: State Senator Roy Goodman, State Senator Martin Connor, and State Assemblyman Vito Lopez. And they ordered them, and one other, State Senator Frank Padavan. Let me show you their pictures. They honored them because they fought with greedy landlords and they helped the tenants. Here is a letter from Kennedy. He's on TV Sunday mornings, I believe, before Robert Schuller on Channel 5, and Urgent Broadcast Media Fund, and he is trying to help America with his ministry. So that's his name is James Kennedy, and he's a PhD. Dr. Kennedy, I will help you continue administering strong medicine from God's Word to a nation in spiritual need as we continue all of our vital outreach ministries together. And closes my gift for. A gift for August, a gift for July, and a gift for immediate gift. You hold the cure. Please act today. Dr. James Kennedy, Ph.D. The Commission on Judicial Conduct, State of New York, they're supposed to rid us of bad judges, but they do not. Okay? You complain about these bad judges, and they do nothing. And the man who's responsible for this is Gerald Stern. He lives in White Plains, over around Gedney Way, the Esplanade. And they can't even get your name straight, and their function, they think, is dirty judge protection. And I wrote to Governor Pataki several times, fire Lawrence, fire Stern, fire Clear. They are taxpayer waste. Get us some honest people, honorable people to do the job of ridding the state of corrupt judges. Glendora. Folks, these are true believers, people that I support wholeheartedly. Doris Sassower, mother, and Elena Sassower, daughter. And this was in the Westchester County Weekly on March the 19th, 1998. And it says, heroes don't have to be perfect, they don't have to be made. And these days, they're certainly not the people we've entrusted with the power to run things. Yet there are heroic acts being performed daily by ordinary people all around us. To mark Women's History Month for Westchester Weekly has chosen 6 women whose belief in an ideal has informed their life work to the benefit of the entire community. We chose them because they aren't afraid to be fierce, unconventional, visionary, and persistent. They remind us that there are things that are worth fighting for. The following profiles were written by Patrick R. McDonald, Susan J. Police, and Robert Nixon. Photographs by Anthony Mataloni. Whistleblowers. Mother and daughter team. It seems so radical, says Doris Sassower, the gray-haired mother of Elena. But all we're talking about is our democratic values. True believers. Whistleblowers. Elena and Doris Sassower are true believers of the justice system. For them, the law is sacred, holy, and incorruptible. When a judge dirties the holiness, he can expect the Sassowers to be all over him. This mother and daughter team do not take judicial misconduct lightly. It seems so radical, said Doris Sassower, the gray-haired mother of Elena, but all we're talking about is our democratic values. The Sassowers co-founded the Center for Judicial Accountability in 1989. Back then it was known as the 9th Judicial Committee, which is the judicial district of Westchester County. Along with lawyer Eli Vigliano, the Sassowers looked into an apparent cross-endorsement deal between Democrats and Republicans that deprived voters of their constitutional right of election. The major party slates were identical. You vote for me this year, and on the next election, I'll vote, you don't run, and then I'll run, and you all vote for me. That's cross-endorsement. Doris Sassower then spearheaded a lawsuit to challenge the deal. In 1991, Sassower's law license was indefinitely suspended. See how they got even with her? Doris, who was the first woman chair of the National Conference of Lawyers and Social Workers, as well as the first female member of the New York Bar's Judiciary Committee, claimed political retaliation was the reason for her suspension. Of course. Like the people she represented in her practice, Sassower became another whistleblowing victim. Whistleblowing and fighting the system are nothing new to the Sassowers. Doris's former husband was disbarred after he, Lena put it, vigorously challenged the judge's ruling. Doris, who graduated from New York University Law School in 1956, constantly bumped into blatant sexism as she became a highly distinguished lawyer. The climate was hostile toward women lawyers. In 1950, Sassower decided the only way to practice law was to open her own office. As the daughter of idealistic Jewish immigrants, the experience forever changed her view of America. I was a part of the American dream, Doris said, but I have seen it in my lifetime turn into the American nightmare, and I wanted to make it so it wouldn't happen to others as it happened to me. So now the Sassowers take on judges who in New York State control the disciplining and licensing of lawyers. See the Hack report on page 6. This kind of authority tends to make lawyers think twice about reporting judicial misconduct, especially when they hear about Doris Sassower. But the Sassowers plan to provide cover for these people. We want to provide a national umbrella of all of the judicial activists and organizations around the country that are merging to deal with a problem that is profound and pervasive, Doris said. That is the perversion and pollution of our judicial system. They are judges not following the letter of the law. I'm talking about paybacks and return of favors. Elena performs much of the research work for the center, and she keeps tabs on New York State judges as well as federal judges. She is a graduate of Brown University, but she downplays the importance of attending an Ivy League school. That doesn't really matter, Elena said of her degree. My credential is that I am the daughter of not one but two whistleblowers. And what happens to whistleblowers inevitably is that their lives are destroyed. The White Plains-based center has members in 30 states, and it is the only organization in the United States that brings together individuals who have complaints against judges and gives them the opportunity for redress. Center for Judicial Accountability. The work is never easy, and oftentimes the center is ignored by the powers that be, but the Sassauers remain firm in their commitment. We know if we don't do it, it won't be done, Elena said, and we support you, Elena and Doris Sassauer, 100%. This is what the crooked lawyers and corrupt judges have done this week. George Lange, the chief clerk of the United States Court of Appeals, has an unlisted number, like the Beverly Hills Police Department has an unlisted number. The U.S. Court of Appeals and the U.S. Supreme Court are mercenary. Big, thick-skinned animals with hooves are pachyderms. You thought they were lawyers. Nomination Crooked Lawyer of the Week and Nomination Corrupt Judge of the Week. Call the telephone numbers that you see on the screen. The U.S. Court of Appeals and the U.S. Supreme Court, again, are mercenary. Gannett wants a photo ID before anybody can be admitted to the annual meeting. So you can see how they're running in the opposite direction and how afraid they are. Let's see. The Second Circuit judges are too lazy or too ashamed to sign their orders. The clerks have become suffragan judges. The Winter Wonderland is the Second Circuit. That's Ralph K. Winter. Alternatives to the United States Court of Appeals. The public has a right to know. If it's a public hearing, then the public should speak. Mildworm will never be the same. He's out of here. Delfino says he's running a people's government, but you test him out on that. You'll find out that he isn't. Keep the courage flaming. What are the fights for rights this week? We have a police state, not a republic, and we're guaranteed to have a republic, so you can sue for that. And stop the School of the Americas. And this is a chat with Glendora on June the 1st. A new day, a new week, and a new month. Folks, this is the lawsuit, Glendora and Franklin versus United States Magistrate Judge Joan M. Azraq, United States Magistrate Judge Robert M. Levy, FBI Special Agent Thomas Kwiatkowski, and Assistant U.S. Attorney Edgardo Ramos. What did they do wrong? Well, they violated constitutional rights. The Fourth Amendment says that no arrest warrant shall issue without probable cause and without an oath. There was no probable cause. Bruiser Ken, being the coward that he is, realized the great crime, double assault that he had committed, and scared stiff, coward that he is, he lied. And then Kwiatkowski lied to the magistrate, Levy. Kwiatkowski did not sign an oath or state an oath under penalty of perjury that he is telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help him God. And they had no probable cause. It was Bruiser Ken who beat us up, as you know, and the whole thing was malicious prosecution. It was false arrest. It was abuse of power. It was profligacy as to taxpayer money, your money. The whole system was being used to cover up a crook Bruiser Ken, who assaulted two old people in a moment of insanity. Maybe it isn't a moment. And so, what did Joan M. Azraq do? Well, because the Constitution of the United States was violated, the Fourth Amendment, on 2 counts, that means that the action was entirely unconstitutional, and that means that, therefore, Azraq didn't have any jurisdiction. Of course, Azraq made a lot of collusive and conspiratorial errors and abuse of discretion. She should have dropped the thing the first day. She saw it, so should have leaving. So we were reading you to that lawsuit, and we got up to as far as page 44. And it says here, how could Azraq sentence, quote unquote, the perfect man? Every woman in the world should have a husband like Franklin. Franklin cried and said, at the end of your life, it hurts. Azraq's voice trembled. Then she ran off for a whole week after she sentenced, quote unquote, 2 innocent people, 2 victims, and then let the real crook go. A court's job is to ascertain the truth. She failed. There was a Pinkerton there at the fake sentencing, covering it for the 50 conspirators. Now, there was an article in the New York Times that the police refined methods so potent that even the innocent have confessed. Well, that's what they tried to do with us. They tried to make us confess to something that we didn't do. We absolutely would have nothing to do with it. We absolutely refuse. If Glendora pleads guilty, we'll drop the charges against Franklin. That's extortion. United States attorney, that's extortion. So we said preposterous. We said outrageous, and we said no. And then Franklin and Glendora can have deferred prosecution if they'll drop the civil suit against them. Now, Goldberger, who is a United States attorney, and let me tell you that United States attorneys are the worst people I know, but in addition to that, they're the worst lawyers I know. And that's saying a lot, right? Because I belong to Americans for Legal Reform, and we know there are no good lawyers. Well, there's 3, 4.
great job. Money in the bank. Last month, someone asked if I read the Bible. The Bible? I'm successful, I'm happy. What do I need the Bible for? I can get more from the Wall Street Journal. But that made me curious. So I decided to take a second look.
I'm on my feet all day. When I go home, I just want to turn on the TV and relax. But read the Bible? All those these and thous and begats? Who wants to struggle with that after waiting on customers all day? But then a friend showed me this version written in modern English, and I was surprised.
This guy I play hoops with said I should start reading it, the Bible. Man, I said, I don't need no Bible. I mean, it just ain't cool. So he goes, I read it all the time. And he beat me by 20 points. So he gives me his Bible. I read it. It ain't hoops, but it ain't bad.
What's your excuse? Before you make an excuse to avoid reading the Bible, stop. Take a second look. Pick up the Bible for 5 minutes, and you may pick it up for a lifetime.
Folks, this is the lawsuit, Glendora and Franklin versus United States Magistrate Judge Joan M. Azraq, United States Magistrate Judge Robert M. Levy, FBI Special Agent Thomas Kwiatkowski, and Assistant U.S. Attorney Edgardo Ramos. What did they do wrong? Well, they violated constitutional rights. The Fourth Amendment says that no arrest warrant shall issue without probable cause and without an oath. There was no probable cause. Bruiser Ken, being the coward that he is, realized the great crime, double assault that he had committed, and scared stiff, coward that he is, he lied. And then Kwiatkowski lied to the magistrate, Levy. Kwiatkowski did not sign an oath or state an oath under penalty of perjury that he was telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help him God. And they had no probable cause. It was Bruiser Ken who beat us up, as you know, and the whole thing was malicious prosecution. It was false arrest. It was abuse of power. It was profligacy as to taxpayer money, your money. The whole system was being used to cover up a crook, Bruiser Ken, who assaulted two old people in a moment of insanity. Maybe it isn't a moment. And so, what did Joan M. Azraq do? Well, because the Constitution of the United States was violated, the Fourth Amendment, on 2 counts, that means that the action was entirely unconstitutional, and that means that, therefore, Azraq didn't have any jurisdiction. Of course, Azraq made a lot of collusive and conspiratorial errors and abuse of discretion. She should have dropped the thing the first day that she saw it, so should have Levy. So we were reading you to that lawsuit, and we got up to as far as page 44, and it says here, how could Azraq sentence, quote unquote, the perfect man? Every woman in the world should have a husband like Franklin. Franklin cried and said, at the end of your life, it hurts. Azraq's voice trembled. Then she ran off for a whole week after she sentenced, quote unquote, 2 innocent people, 2 victims, and then let the real crook go. A court's job is to ascertain the truth. She failed. There was a Pinkerton there at the fake sentencing, covering it for the 50 conspirators. Now, there was an article in the New York Times that the police refined methods so potent that even the innocent have confessed. Well, that's what they tried to do with us. They tried to make us confess to something that we didn't do. We absolutely would have nothing to do with it. We absolutely refuse. If Glendora pleads guilty, we'll drop the charges against Franklin. That's extortion. United States attorney. That's extortion. So we said preposterous. We said outrageous, and we said no. And then Franklin and Glendora can have deferred prosecution if they'll drop the civil suit against them. Ha! Now, Goldberger, who is a United States attorney, and let me tell you that United States attorneys are the worst people I know, but in addition to that, they're the worst lawyers I know. And that's saying a lot, right? Because I belong to Americans for Legal Reform, and we know there are no good lawyers. Well, there's 3, 4. Goldberger, who never knows what to say, doesn't know how to defend, doesn't know the law, and in addition to all that, he's a vicious person. He forever adjourns, and so he writes a note to United States District Judge Ross on this case that he wants to delay his answer until May 15th. Well, finally, Ross put her foot down, and I don't know why she lets him have so many lazy adjournments. And this time she put her foot down and she said, no, you can have until May 1st. And that's not only to answer Glendora Franklin versus Azraq, Levy, Kwiatkowski, and Ramos, but that's also to answer Glendora and Franklin versus William Brenner and Philip Bigger, the 2 people who said Glendora and Franklin cannot have deferred prosecution unless they drop their civil suit. It's a case of extortion. It's a case of presenting a criminal action to gain an advantage in a civil action, which is against the law. And they're going to be sued on that. In fact, they have been sued on that in the federal court in the corrupt and evil Eastern District of New York. We did it in the Southern District of New York, but there's collusion there, and they dumped it into the clutches of the heathens in the evil Eastern District of New York. However, there's another place to sue them. The Bill of Rights of the State of New York says very clearly, number 8, no warrant shall issue without probable cause and without an oath. And that's the state law. I just quoted you, New York Code Rules and Regulations, section 1200.36. So they can be sued in the Supreme Court of the State of New York, County of Westchester. So that will probably be civil suit number 5 against these hoods. So Goldberger writes to, and he doesn't know how to do legal papers, you know, he writes letters. He didn't know anything about legal papers. He hands in a memorandum of law and he has no affidavit. He never swears under penalty of perjury. He's telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, because we all know he isn't. He said that the 2 actions referenced above were commenced by plaintiffs in the Southern District of New York in January this year, pursuant to an order of Southern District Court Judge Sotomayor, who betrayed her country. Venue was transferred to the court in February. However, until last Friday, the undersigned to whom these and plaintiffs' other cases against federal officials is assigned and unaware that the cases have been transferred. Well, he never knows what's going on, and he just submits it. Accordingly, in order to have sufficient time to prepare responses to these complaints, and because the time for some or all of the defendants in these actions to respond to the complaint may be nearing, this letter is to respectfully request that the time to move against the answer the complaints in these actions be extended to and including May 15th. Well, he wants to do this because he's trying to use a criminal action to gain an advantage in a civil action, and this is the start of Glendora's evidence in the suit, the second suit against them on that. This is the first suit, the federal suit. I quote here, memorandum in protest, go is stop. The magistrate is Marilyn D. Go. She doesn't do anything. She doesn't read her papers. She doesn't write orders. When she promises, she'll write orders. She doesn't keep the dates of conferences. She has robbed me of all of my discovery, the cover-up of the Mildworm pension. My point there is that Mildworm is well enough to beat up 2 old people in the Uniondale courthouse, then he is well enough to be working for the New York City Police Department and not being a parasite and collecting the pension when he's fully able to work. So she robbed me of my discovery on that. She robbed me of my discovery to interview News 12. They were there the day that Mildworm went into an insane fit and beat us up. And dress, magistrate, go until you're blue in the face, and she does nothing. So go is stop. And this also is what Ramos did. We were prosecuted, arrested, falsely arrested, and maliciously prosecuted because we chose to exercise our First Amendment right, freedom of speech. So that's how dirty the U.S. attorneys are. And the whole case is First Amendment retaliation, plus the fact that they, well, including the fact that they want to get these reports off of TV, and including the fact that they want to that they want to stop the civil suits. This was what happened on February the 18th, 1997. Bruiserkin inflicted 6 bruises upon me and socked Franklin in the jaw. Sprawled both of us on the floor. Isn't that insane? They knew that I was on a hot spot when I asked for the personnel record of Bruiserkin, because I'm sure there are other incidents of his brutality in there, his 70s precinct mentality. That was robbed. I was robbed of that. They keep trying to dismiss my suit, but as you know, a pro se suit on civil rights cannot be dismissed. As the Second Circuit says, in view of the well-settled rule particularly applicable in pro se civil rights actions, that a complaint should not be dismissed unless it appears beyond doubt that the plaintiff, moi, can prove no set of facts in support of her claim which would entitle her to relief. Well, if they dismiss my case, then they have taken away that. So they can't have the case dismissed. It was more malfeasance and nonfeasance of the Eastern District of New York that Franklin and Glendora were done out of their Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 5.1, preliminary hearing. You're supposed to have a preliminary hearing. And at that hearing, you can show that there was no probable cause. But they deliberately, maliciously, and crookedly did us out of it. Because they wanted this action to go on and on, thinking that we would cave in. At the second fake arraignment, March the 29th, 1998, with Azraq, Glendora asked to make good on the preliminary hearing oversight. And she says, why should I? Just because you asked? And I said, no, because there's no probable cause. And she did not answer. Azraq was adamant and acrimonious. This was the first sign of her collusion. A fair judge would have had the preliminary hearing, and it would have shown beyond a doubt there was no probable cause. And the entire embarrassment to the Eastern District of New York would have been evaporated. But they are so desperate. They can't have the luxury of not being embarrassed. They can't have the luxury of people thinking well of them. They are so desperate. They have to go through with this evil endeavor. But credit is due Azraq. She sincerely and admirably tried very hard to settle it with deferred prosecution. She was clearly disappointed when the demons jettisoned it, and this is why coward Ramos ran away as fast as he could. Brennan and Bigger were entirely wrong excluding Glendora from the negotiations with Murray and Bigger. Glendora is and was the lead attorney. her legal advisor Grossman was not on the job that day. Again, Brennan and Bigger were patently wrong, dishonest, and dishonorable. Now, this is the document notice of motion to cross my desk. Why are U.S. attorneys such puerile lawyers? This is not Doctor of Jurisprudence. This is not a doctorate. This is a baccalaureate. And this is Berger's motion in the worst form possible. Look, see how it doesn't even look like a legal paper? It looks like a letter. To make a motion to dismiss this action, Glendora and Franklin against Joan M. Azrak, Robert Levy, Thomas Kwiatkowski, and Edgardo Ramos. Now, nowhere does Michael J. Goldberger, an assistant U.S. attorney, declare under penalty of perjury that he is telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, because we all know he isn't. And these are my marginalia and interlinear exposures of his lies, and the number of lies should be up here. I happen to know what it is currently. It's 2,146 lies that these colluders underpay of the American taxpayer have told. Franklin never attacked Mildworm. Franklin merely extended his arms to protect his wife from this brute. And Kwiatkowski has no personal knowledge. Everything he says is hearsay, double hearsay, triple hearsay, quadruple hearsay. He was not there. Glendora never touched Mildworm. Even the thought of it sickens my stomach. He did all of the touching. Glendora never resisted, and she never touched him, and she took it like a Quaker. And then Mildworm dropped Glendora on the floor and socked Franklin in the jaw, knocking him to the floor. Was Kwiatkowski there? No. Has he any personal knowledge? No. Is this hearsay? Yes. Is this an idiotic thing for Goldberger to include in his motion papers? Yes. Franklin was never on Mildworm's person. That's more hearsay, and no personal knowledge. Glendora was dropped on the floor. She didn't sit on the floor by brute Mildworm. Franklin was knocked on the floor by brute Mildworm. They were not allowed to stand. We got up on our own and stood. And we left on our own. And to this day, not one of these colluders has sworn under penalty of perjury that he has told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help him God. I feel sorry for them. It is not my burden. I would rather be Franklin and Glendora than these hoods any day. Where is the paper? Where is the audio tape? Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, where is it? Did you make out anything such as the rules of magistrates in misdemeanor says that you should? There's a law, and it's called Rules for United States Magistrates in Misdemeanor Trials. And Azrak didn't have it. Levy didn't know about it. I wanted to find it. Nobody could tell me where it was. And I ran across it by accident in an appendix when I was looking at the Criminal Code, Title 18. Here is what Kwiatkowski should have made out, a form like this, but he's never produced it. In all these months, he has never produced it. So you see, there was no oath. So you see, there was a violation of the Fourth Amendment. So you see that the whole criminal action was unconstitutional. So you see that Azrak never had any jurisdiction. It says here that Mr. Ramos orchestrated by exact enumeration 1,571 lies, but that was only back in September. The count now is what I told you, 2,146. And then Goldberger, in-house. See, everything is in-house. You see, it's all the cult. It's all the diabolical cult. And Goldberger asked Ramos, who is another assistant U.S. attorney, to do a declaration. They don't dare do affidavits. They just sink to the low form declarations. And he asked Kwiatkowski to do a declaration. But those are no good, because neither Ramos nor Kwiatkowski was available for us to cross-examine. And here's the phony warrant of arrest. And of course you knew that at this trumped-up action and this ambush when the Fraudulent Bureau of Investigation and the U.S. Marshal Disservice and the Department of Justice, when they ambushed us and arrested us, they never showed us the warrant for arrest. And you have to do that. And they never told us what we were charged with. That's how evil and Machiavellian these crooks are. And they're all doing it under the flag of the United States of America. Everything they say just makes them look that much worse. They just keep lying and lying and lying, and everybody knows they're lying and lying and lying. Was an ambulance called? Yes. Well, who called it? John McHale. Why? Glendora was injured. Well, who injured her? Was Kenneth Mildworm injured? No. Were you afraid, Kenneth Mildworm? No. Azrak, did you tell the jury that essential element of an assault is that the person who claims to be assaulted has to be in fear? Mildworm said he was not in fear. So that essential element is missing. Crooked, framer. You've heard of white-collar crime? Well, this is black robe crime. Kwiatkowski deals in bad faith. There are 5 lawsuits over this insanity of Bruiser Kent. Thank heaven he's been defrocked. He's no longer a Pinkerton. Thank heaven he's no longer assigned to the Eastern District of New York. He's all over the place. They got him out of here. Glendora versus Bruiser Kent, 97 Civ, 1131. The hoax criminal frame-up, 97 criminal, 228. Buell versus Mildworm, 98 Civ, 0421. That's a RICO action. Franklin and Glendora versus Azrak, this is the one I'm telling you about, 98 Civ, 1352. And Glendora Franklin versus Brenner and Bigger and Ramos, 98 Civ, 1567. Mr. Kwiatkowski, where is the oath? Petition by Glendora for the immediate arrest of Kenneth H. Mildworm. Upon the affixed counterclaim by Glendora and her answer to the complaint of lies of Mildworm of March 5, 1997, Glendora respectfully requests that an arrest warrant issue so that Kenneth H. Mildworm may be dealt with according to the law, truth, and justice. Well, he's been dealt with according to the lawlessness, he's been dealt with according to lies, and he's been dealt with according to injustice. And that was on March the 7th, 1996. Has it happened? No. All the colluders, all of the crooks, all of the heathens have ignored it. The United States Attorney has a duty to arrest Mildworm. 20 times the United States Attorney has been asked. 20 times the United States Attorney has refused to do his job, his duty to you. It's a rank dereliction of oath and of duty, and certainly of paycheck. Now, the counterclaims I read to you way back in March of 1997. It's a long, long paper, and it's reproduced here for Judge Ross, just because things have a way of getting out of the file if they are against the cult. But these were the things and the rights that were violated, and it goes on. Looks like it goes on for 50 pages. But anyway, it's all been read to you. And then Glendora scrutinizes the complaint of lies. You know, mild word being coward. You knew he did a terrible thing. So what's a coward do in those cases? He lies. And he's been lying ever since. And what's the count now? 2,146 lies. This is a preliminary statement by Goldberger, and this is Glendora's attack on it. Interlinea and marginalia. Now, Goldberger has no meritorious defense, so therefore I have asked for a summary judgment. Rule 56, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. Now, here's the two big documents. One is prosecutorial immunity. These are all of the things that Ramos did wrong, or some of them. You can't list them all in that short of space. And then the other one was that it was selective prosecution, because Glendora and Franklin chose to act like Americans and exercise their rights to free speech. So that for that they get arrested. Now, a friend of mine has told me that in an action, we just lost our light, that in an action, let me turn on the wall light, not that it will do that much good, you need 600 watts. And the wall light is plugged in.
I've got a great job. Money in the bank. Last month, someone asked if I read the Bible. The Bible? I'm successful. I'm happy. What do I need the Bible for? I can get more from the Wall Street Journal. But that made me curious. So I decided to take a second look.
I'm on my feet all day. When I go home, I just want to turn on the TV and relax. But read the Bible? All those these and thous and begats? Who wants to struggle with that after waiting on customers all day? But then a friend showed me this version written in modern English, and I was surprised.
This guy I play hoops with said I should start reading it, the Bible. Man, I said, I don't need no Bible. I mean, it just ain't cool. So he goes, I read it all the time. And he beat me by 20 points. So he gives me his Bible, I read it. It ain't hoops, but it ain't bad.
What's your excuse? Before you make an excuse to avoid reading the Bible, stop. Take a second look. Pick up the Bible for 5 minutes, and you may pick it up for a lifetime.
Here we are in the basement, and Caesar put a drain up here. And then he cemented over the gutter, which the building department said was a tripping hazard. And he kept this board here, which I'm sure is not going to support 250-pound Tony Magnotta, the code enforcement officer for the White Plains Building Department. But he put stuff, some kind of chemical, into the sump pump to take out the smell. However, that was not the complaint. The smell was coming from the sewer over here. And that hasn't been touched, and if this were smell-o-vision, you could smell it. There's no water in the cellar because we haven't had any rain, and the cellar is reasonably clear and clean. But I do want to show you these beautiful washers and this dryer. They are reliable. They work. Every time they work. Okay, you can see the junk, Caesar's junk, has been removed from the cellar. Complaint to the White Plains Building Department, fire hazard gun. But you can see that Mr. Porzio is still defiant of the White Plains Building Department, and he has not removed these two air conditioners, which I believe belong to the people in 3B, and these bicycles and the people in 3B, they should not be here in the common area. They should be in the tenants' lockers. Folks, it's all cleaned up. All of that junk that I showed you last week is all gone. However, the punching bag is still here. And again, the air conditioners and the bicycle. like to make a statement?
Organization. It's a lot. It's all the work of Glendora.
Oh, thanks. Franklin, does a 600-watt light bother your eyes?
Yes.
Okay, fade out. Thank you. Yesterday, this jerk from Gannett came up to this place. I didn't see him, but this is what had happened. He comes up to this place. He sees a pile of these wet advertisers left over from last week. Nobody wants them. And the idiot puts another pile right beside it. Now, I have bawled out Gannett about this once. I don't have time to do it now. And it was about a year ago, and they fired the guy who did this. But I don't have time to follow this one up. And so somebody picked him up from this point and brought them inside. We need a superintendent. 16 units should have a superintendent. John Malone, Magnus, TCI file 4, 3, 2, 1. Cablevision file 1 is down in the basement. Cablevision file 2, Cablevision file 2, Charles Dolan, Quinn and Tata, William Quinn and John Tata. So that's 2, 3, 4, and 5. And Teddy Red Sweater, a 78-year-old teddy bear. Franklin's newspaper articles of 37 years. The laundry of today, hot clothes about to be folded and put away. And more Glendora TV ads, 2-inch videotapes. Glendora TV ads, 3/4-inch videotapes. Glendora Cheerful Look at Life, mix 1/2-inch, 2-inch, and 3/4-inch, and a chat with Glendora Archives. Porzio, New York statutes that hasn't been put away since last Friday. Many of you have been abused and bullied and beaten and bounced by greedy landlords. My landlord is John Porzio. He lives in Harrison. He has his office in White Plains at 2 Old Mamaroneck Avenue. The property that he owns is in White Plains, and the long story about it is that he is breaking several laws, and he's in serious trouble. And I've gone over those laws on a previous program. This is the Harrison-Port Chester edition of A Chat with Glendora, and Pucci and Larkin, all connected, of course, with the Porzio problem, the owner of the 16 apartments. This was a plan to sue them all in the United States District Court. And here it is, Glendora's notice of motion and motion to dismiss. I stayed up from 3 a.m. Thursday to finish. I finished at about noon, Thursday noon. And it is John Porzio, petitioner landlord, against Glendora and Franklin Buell, defendants, respondents, tenants. It's going to be a good fight, Mr. Porzio. You've already spent a lot of money, and the work that you've got for it has been junk. Okay, first defense. To state a claim upon which relief can be granted, the court doesn't have in personam jurisdiction. The charges referred to matters in the 1.5 years ago before Mr. Porzio even signed the current release. No declaration of under penalty of perjury. Mr. Porzio doesn't sign the petition. We haven't got a copy of it by regular mail. A lot of lawyers fall down on this, and we haven't got a copy of it, certified return receipt requested. Motive of petitioner is retaliation. That's against the law. Motive of petitioner is harassment. That's against the law. This petition must be denied on the grounds that we have done nothing to violate the terms of the tenancy and never would. We have meticulously taken care of our apartment and our locker and our parking space and gone way beyond the call of duty and done Mr. Porzio's share and done maintenance chores that Mr. Porzio should have done or had a superintendent do. Irreparable harm. Franklin is 78 years old. He's scrawny and he has a heart condition. And he's getting weaker daily, and to pack up and move would likely result in his demise. A violation of due process in the service, the failure to serve properly is clearly in respondents' rights. The notice of termination wasn't served. There's no declaration of perjury. There is no rent due. That's a lie. Franklin sent the rent, and the checks were sent back. And I asked Judge Holden, can we pay this rent into court? And immediately the lawyer says, oh, I'll take it. See, they don't want to get it into court. If it's paid into the court, they have a very hard time getting it out of court again. So that took care of that. So they have no cause of action. The rent is paid. I asked for sanctions for the violations of the New York statutes, for the violations of due process, and for the violations of how they're handling this case. Mr. Porzio returns the checks and says that you're no longer considered a tenant. Well, that's not his decision, okay? And besides, you know, this property is controlled by the Emergency Tenant Protection Act. And so Mr. Porzio is taking the domain of the court. And I don't think Judge Holden's going to like that very well. And I have faith in Judge Holden that he will do what is best for his city and for his county and for his state and for his country. I have to believe that. Warranty of habitability. Over and over again, I must tell you about the warranty of habitability. The warranty of habitability does not show up in writing. It is not told to you orally, but it is a state law and it is your right. And every written or oral lease or rental agreement for residential premises, the landlord or lessor shall be deemed to covenant and warrant that the premises so leased or rented and all areas used in connection therewith in common with other tenants or residents are fit for human habitation and for the uses reasonably intended by the parties, and that the occupants of such premises shall not be subjected to any conditions which be dangerous, hazardous, or detrimental to their life, health, or safety. That's the warranty of habitability, and don't ever forget it, folks. That is your right. It doesn't have to be written, it doesn't have to be oral. It is there. Silently, it is there, and it is yours. And any agreement of a dwelling waiving or modifying your rights as set forth in this section shall be void and contrary to public interest. If that's in your lease, that's an unconscionable cause and it cannot be enforced in court. Your right cannot be taken away from you. In determining the amount of damages sustained by a tenant as a result of a breach of the warranty set forth in this section, the court need not require any expert testimony. No experts have to testify for it. Experts being doctors and folks like that. Now, another reason that Mr. Porzio cannot evict us is that this property is protected by the Emergency Tenant Protection Act of 1974. I asked for a temporary restraining order and a preliminary injunction. I even go so far as to ask for an order of protection that Mr. Porzio stop harassing us to move. And the warranty of habitability is violated the very day I was writing this by this list. See this long list? And we are accused of holding over, but we've never been terminated because we've never been served. I exercise my right to a trial by jury. This lease says that I cannot have that right. Well, that's just totally unconscionable. The 7th Amendment of the Constitution of the United States guarantees a jury trial. And Rule 38 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure says that jury trial shall be held inviolate. That doesn't mean you're wearing purple or you're in lavender. It means that it can't be violated. Okay, what else? Oh yeah, senior citizens. I'm 68 and Franklin 78. I asked to audio tape it. I say that this petition is frivolous. I say that Judge Freya received my complaints about Porzio and that told me to go to the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal, which I did. I handed in that complaint on Monday. I've handed in several times. They keep sending it back, but now I think it's in the form that they want. And that's my notice of motion and motion to dismiss this frivolous petition by John Porzio. So, let's see. Next time I report to you will be April 28th, a week from this Monday, and I assume that by then I will have my reply, affidavit or affirmation to Porzio's opposition to my motion for dismissal. It shall be very interesting, folks. So ends landlord-tenant. When you're called, you're called. And these things are wrong, and these things are traitorship to America, and you got to fight for your country, even though it takes everything you have, money, your time, and your life. So it's nice that we're winning the battle on rent control. Bruno has backed down. That is good. Here's the article on the Dolans. It's the silliest article that Poor weeks now. He's let all these newspapers sit out here in front door. No, isn't that ridiculous? And I'm going to back up here and show you what we look at, these beautiful trees. And our 9:30 a.m. pickup mailbox over there. And this is the greatest time of year. Well, they're all great, but I sure do love April and spring, don't you folks? Take a look at the Lincoln. All the blossoms coming out of this tree. Isn't that great? Thrilling time of the year, folks, when the leaves are and the field is turning green. We have saved Oscar Bryan 3. Oscar Bryan 2 died. No, Oscar Bryan 1 died. That's the one that you knew so well. Oscar Bryan 2, we didn't know at all, and he was brutally killed. But Oscar Bryan 3, his sibling, shows up now, and we feed him in the field, and he's getting less and less afraid. There's a new kitty. I never saw that. I think I have seen that kitty maybe a year ago. Kitty, you all right? Do you have a home, kitty? What? Oh, you all right, kitty? You're awfully pretty. Anyway, Oscar Bryan 3 comes here, and he looks exactly like his brother. Exactly. You would think that it was a reincarnation. And what day is today? This is April. April 27th, 1997. Sunday, Anno Domini. Okay, first off, folks, we have the matter of Glendora versus John Porzio, greedy landlord. What has happened on that? I read the portions that apply to this situation from the real property law and the real property proceedings and actions law. I read all of those things. Mr. Lerman, in behalf of Mr. Porzio, was supposed to get before me the opposition to my motion to dismiss. It was supposed to be here Friday, the 25th, but it never came. We didn't get it, and so I couldn't answer. There's nothing I can answer. I hope that that will be in my mailbox Monday, or maybe if I'll go down to the city court and see if anything's been handed in the city court, because I want to answer that. I want to make a reply, affirmation to that. Mr. Porzio returned the furnace rent. Franklin sent one out regular mail, and then we didn't trust Mr. Porzio to acknowledge that he had received that, so Franklin sent out another one, express mail, certified mail return receipt requested. That was handed, I said to Judge Holden, which turned out to be a very, very good maneuver. I said, Judge Holden, can we please pay this rent into the court? Because they are claiming a phony cause of action against us. And so Lehrman stepped in and said that he would take the rent. So he took the 2 checks. And we've been advised by other people saying that that was a very bad move on a lawyer's part, that he never should have done that. So that, to me, takes away Mr. Porzio's lie that we are holding over. We are not holding over because we don't have any notice of termination, and we are not holding over because, and we are not, the rent is paid. Trying to make out that the rent is not paid. So there before Mr. Lerman was the choice of either paying the money into the court or his taking the money, and I guess of the two, they decided his taking the money was a lesser evil, because apparently if you pay it in the court, you're never going to see it again. Or you're going to have to pay all kind of county fees to get it out, county finance department fees to get it out. So that turned out to be a very good thing. So there would have been a lot to report to you and a lot to read to you, except that the opposition to the motion to dismiss is not in our hands, and it was supposed to be in our hands by Friday, February 25th. And I would certainly think by 5 p.m. or the close of the business day. Many judges say that. It has to be by 5 p.m. or the close of the business day. What else can I tell you about Mr. Porzio? Just that this is the file. Actually, it's another volume too. We are putting up a fight, landlord-tenant, and I think that's a very important part of a chat with Glendora. Over the years, it has shown landlord-tenant fights. I'm happy to report that I've only have 2 shelves left on the reading of the New York statutes. There were 7 shelves and only 2 are left to be read. Personal property law, I'm not going to read that, and I got the front page as to what it's about in the public authorities law. That is not of interest, and so I'll go on to the last shelf just as soon as I get a chance to get to the Supreme Court Library. And these are all the law that I've read, copied and read. And I was looking for the notice of motion and motion to dismiss, but I see that has gone out to Staples to be printed to send a copy to Brian Sussman. Everybody got a copy except Brian Sussman. Oh, I got to find out if I can audio tape. Now, May the 2nd, we have another appearance before Judge Holden. And what will be decided there? Well, the motion to dismiss is before him. And it should be fully submitted by then if I get the opposition and if I can get my reply affirmation written and submitted to Judge Holden by then. Then maybe he could make a decision on the motion to dismiss. Why should the case be dismissed? And I want that audio tape because I cannot afford a court stenographer, and court stenographers are rip-offs. And it's the thing that's got to be eliminated from the whole court system. People cannot afford court stenographers. We've got to have audio tapes and our own audio tapes. Well, the main thing was, of course, that it has to stop because the Lehrman has done such a atrocious job of serving, and we have not been served, and the court doesn't have personal jurisdiction over us. The next thing why it has to be dismissed is that there is no cause of action. This apartment complex is regulated by the Emergency Tenant Protection Act of 1974, and I'm happy to report that Bruno has backed down, that our people went up to